I didn't plan it like this. Honestly, I didn't. But when you're in the middle of something that's been building up for a while, sometimes things just happen. I'm not trying to make excuses, but this, I don't know. It was supposed to be a fun night out with friends. That's all it was supposed to be. But it became something else entirely. So, here's how it all started. My best friend Amanda was throwing a party that night. She'd been talking about it for weeks, getting all excited about having everyone over. She's always been the life of the party, super outgoing, always knows how to make everyone feel comfortable. I was looking forward to it, but at the same time, I had this weird feeling. Things with Jake had been a little off lately. It wasn't anything specific. Just a sense that we were drifting apart, like we weren't really connecting the way we used to. I mentioned the party to Jake, expecting him to be just as excited as me, but he wasn't. "I'm really tired, babe. You know how the week's been?" he said, running a hand through his hair. "I don't think I'm up for it." I could tell he wasn't being rude, just indifferent. And honestly, I got it. He'd had a rough week at work, but I didn't want to sit at home alone again. Not that night. I wanted to go out. I wanted to have fun, to feel like myself again. The problem was, I didn't want to go without him. So I pushed a little, maybe too much. "Come on, Jake, it'll be fun. Just for a couple of hours. You deserve to relax and hang out. And you know Amanda's always asking about you." He hesitated, looking at me like he was debating whether it was worth it. He sighed, and then, as if he just wanted to avoid the argument, he said, "All right, fine. I'll go. But I'll be there later. After I get off work." I was relieved. A little too relieved. Because in that moment, I had a secret I wasn't sharing with him. I wasn't just looking forward to the party. I wasn't just excited about seeing friends. There was someone else I was thinking about. Tom. My ex-husband. Now, before you start judging, let me explain. Tom and I broke up years ago, over 5 years to be exact. We'd had a rocky relationship back then, filled with arguments, misunderstandings, and eventually, a painful breakup. But even after everything, even after moving on, we somehow managed to stay in touch. We'd text every now and then, check in, share the occasional laugh. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep a line open between us. It never went beyond that. At least that's what I told myself. And definitely nothing physical. I had Jake. I loved Jake. But, Tom, he still had this effect on me. There was a part of me that never really let go of him. A part of me that still thought about what we had. I can't really explain it. Maybe it was the way he looked at me when we'd talk, like he knew something I didn't. Or maybe it was the way he'd say my name, just a little too tenderly, and I'd feel something stir inside me. And that night, I knew he'd be at Amanda's party, and as much as I tried to convince myself that it was just a friendly thing, hey, let's catch up, kind of deal, deep down I was nervous about what might happen. So when I got to Amanda's party, I walked in, scanning the room for familiar faces. I found a few people I knew, said my hellos, grabbed a drink, but my eyes kept searching for Tom. And then, I saw him. He was standing near the bar, laughing with someone, but when his eyes met mine, it was like everything else disappeared. My heart skipped. That flutter, the one I hadn't felt in so long, came rushing back. I told myself to calm down, to stop being ridiculous. But I didn't. I walked over to him. "Tom," I said, smiling. "Lena," he replied, his voice warm, almost like he was genuinely happy to see me. He looked different, but also the same. His hair was a little longer, and he looked more relaxed. There was an ease to him that I hadn't seen in years. We hugged, and I could feel the warmth of his body close to mine. It felt familiar, comforting, like nothing had really changed. When I pulled back, I could see the way he was looking at me, like he was remembering everything too. It was like no time had passed. He didn't ask how I was doing, not really. It wasn't the small talk kind of greeting. No, it was deeper, more direct. "Are you happy, Lena?" he asked suddenly, and I was thrown off by the question. "Of course I am," I answered, a little too quickly. Maybe I was convincing myself as much as him. But Tom didn't let it go. "Are you sure? Because you don't look like the Lena I used to know. You look like you're carrying something heavy. You deserve better than that." There it was, the subtle but unmistakable accusation. He was challenging me, digging into something I didn't want to acknowledge. And I hated him for it, but I also kind of liked him for it, because he was right. I did feel heavy. And I didn't know why. The night went on, and we spent more time together, talking, laughing, remembering. At one point, he pulled me aside to the balcony. The music from inside was muffled, and we were alone. That was when it happened. I could feel him near me, could feel his presence in a way that made my heart race, and I let my guard down. The old chemistry between us was undeniable. Tom leaned in, his breath warm against my cheek. "I've missed this," he said softly, and before I knew it, his lips were on mine. I didn't stop him. I didn't pull away. In fact, I kissed him back. It was like the years melted away, and I was that girl again. The one who was loved by Tom. The one who had felt so alive with him. I knew what I was doing. I knew it wasn't right. But it felt good. And that's when I heard the sound of the door opening. It was Jake. He'd arrived early. My stomach dropped. What had I done? The moment I kissed Tom, everything felt like it was spinning out of control. My heart was pounding, my thoughts racing, and I couldn't believe what I had just done. But before I could even fully process it, I heard footsteps at the door. It was Jake. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. He wasn't supposed to be here yet. He was supposed to arrive later. After work. But somehow, he must have come early. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to face him. Not like this. I turned to Tom in a panic. My breath was shallow, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Jake's coming? He's gonna see us! Please, you have to go. You have to hide!" Tom hesitated, looking at me with that same unreadable expression he always had. But I wasn't thinking clearly. I grabbed his arm and whispered urgently, "I can't let him see us together. You have to go. I'll talk to him." I was trying to think of some way to handle this, but nothing was coming to me fast enough. Then, an idea hit me. Something that made my stomach churn with guilt, but it was the only thing I could think of. I turned to my friends who were scattered around the living room. I saw Emily standing by the kitchen door, and I grabbed her by the wrist. Listen, you have to help me. You need to keep Jake out of the house. Don't let him in until I get a chance to talk to him. Just give me a few minutes. Can you do that?" I almost pleaded, my voice shaking with desperation. Emily's eyes widened with confusion, but then she saw the panic on my face and nodded. "Okay, but how? What do we do if he comes in anyway?" "Just keep him busy," I said, nearly breathless. "Make up some excuse. Tell him the door's stuck or that he has to wait for me. Just don't let him inside yet. I need a little more time with Tom. Please." I could see Emily hesitate, unsure of what was happening, but she didn't ask questions. She just nodded. "All right. We'll keep him out." I didn't have time to thank her. I turned back to Tom, who was standing by the sliding door, watching me. "Please, just a few more minutes," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I need to fix this before he finds out everything." Tom didn't say anything. He just gave me a small nod before stepping out of sight, making sure Jake wouldn't notice him. I could hear Emily in the next room, already talking to Jake, trying to distract him. But even with their help, I knew time was running out. I quickly walked to the door to make sure everything was in place, hoping Jake wouldn't get too impatient. I had no idea how long I had before Jake decided to come in, and I was terrified of what would happen if he walked in on us, right now. I couldn't let it fall apart like this. Not without at least trying to explain. I heard Jake's voice from the hallway, calling for me, but Emily stepped in just in time to stop him from entering the house. "Hey, Jake," she said loudly, blocking the doorway with a big smile. "Lena's just finishing up something in the back. She'll be out in a second. You're early, huh?" I couldn't hear his response, but it was enough to keep him at the door. The pressure in my chest only grew as I stood there, waiting. I just needed more time, please, just a few more minutes. My mind kept running over everything: the kiss, the guilt, the decision I was about to make. I couldn't keep running away from the truth anymore. I walked over to the window, peering out at the driveway. I could see Jake standing near the front of the house, waiting, clearly not happy about the delay. But Emily was still holding her ground, keeping him at bay. I looked back at Tom, who was waiting silently by the door. My heart skipped a beat when our eyes met. He was standing there, so calm, while I felt like everything inside me was on fire. I knew I had to talk to Jake. I knew I couldn't keep him in the dark, not forever. But in that moment, all I could think about was buying myself a little more time. And then I heard the sound of Jake moving closer. I turned, panic rising again. "Please, just a little longer," I said to Emily, my voice urgent. She gave me a quick nod and stepped in front of the door again, blocking Jake from entering. I knew I was pushing my luck. But I needed those few minutes. I needed to talk to Tom, to figure out what to do next, and, most of all, I needed to find a way to stop everything from unraveling so quickly. For just a little longer, I needed to delay Jake. But time, I knew, was running out. The tension in the room was unbearable. I could hear Jake just outside, his voice now rising in frustration, but Emily was holding strong at the door. She was doing her best to keep him distracted, talking about random things, pretending like everything was fine. But I could tell from her voice, she was starting to lose her patience too. I turned back to Tom, standing just out of sight, his face unreadable. He didn't want to be part of this, I knew that. But he was here, and I had dragged him into this mess. I could see the discomfort in his eyes, the way his fingers kept twitching, like he wanted to leave but couldn't. Part of me wanted to apologize to him. He hadn't asked for this, but another part of me just couldn't stop, couldn't back out. I took a deep breath, walking toward him slowly, feeling my heart hammering in my chest. "This isn't what I wanted, Tom," I said quietly, my voice shaking with guilt. "This wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't plan for any of this." Tom didn't look at me right away, but when he finally did, there was a faint look of resignation in his eyes. "Lena, you don't have to explain. I know why you're doing this. But you can't keep running from it. You can't keep pretending nothing's wrong." His words hit harder than I expected, and I swallowed back a lump in my throat. I knew he was right. But I didn't want to face the truth yet. I couldn't. Not while Jake was out there, waiting hurt and confused. I tried to steady myself. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to lose him, but... I stopped myself. The words felt hollow now. Did I still want to save my marriage? Or was I already too far gone, caught in something I couldn't undo? I could hear Jake's voice from the other side of the door again. He was more persistent now, a hint of impatience creeping into his tone. "Lena. Come on, what's going on? Let me in." Emily's voice, though, was still trying to cover it up. "She's just finishing up something. She'll be right out." I could hear Jake muttering something under his breath, but then I heard him take a few steps back. The door clicked closed. Emily had successfully kept him at bay for the moment. I glanced over at Tom. His expression was tense, but he didn't move. He was waiting. Waiting for me to make a decision. And then, just like that, something shifted. I knew I couldn't keep putting off what needed to be said. I couldn't keep running in circles. What had I been trying to protect? The marriage that was already falling apart, or my own fragile pride? I looked at Tom again. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can go back to him. But I don't know if I can walk away from everything we built, either. Tom took a step closer, his voice soft but firm. "Lena, you can't live like this. You can't live in two worlds. You have to make a choice." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. My heart pounded. A choice. The door creaked again. I froze, my chest tightening. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to face Jake, to see the hurt on his face, to explain everything. I had to make a choice. Now. Before I could say anything else, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps coming closer. I turned to Tom, panic rising in my throat. "He's coming." But it was too late. Jake's voice, now unmistakably close, rang out. "Lena. I'm done with the waiting. I'm coming in." The door handle rattled, and for a split second, everything seemed to go in slow motion. Before I could even react, the door flew open, and Jake stepped inside, his eyes locking onto me first, then drifting to Tom. The silence that followed felt like it lasted an eternity. My mind was racing, trying to think of something, anything, to say. But there was nothing. Nothing that could fix this now. Jake's gaze flickered between us, and I could see the anger, the hurt, and the confusion in his eyes. He didn't say anything at first. His jaw tightened, his fists clenching at his sides. "Is this really happening, Lena?" His voice was low, dangerous. "Are you really doing this?" I felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. I knew, deep down, that this was the moment everything changed. There was no going back after this, no easy way to undo what had been done. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. How could I explain? How could I justify this? How could I tell him that, for a brief moment, I had let myself be caught up in something I shouldn't have? Tom stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Jake, I think it's time you heard the truth." Jake's head snapped in his direction. "The truth? What truth?" "That you're still in love with my wife. That you couldn't keep your hands off her even though she's married to me." Tom's expression didn't change. "That's not what I'm saying. But you deserve to know what's really been going on. This isn't just about us, Jake. It's about her." I closed my eyes for a moment, wishing I could disappear. wishing I could rewind the last few minutes. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to lose everything. I opened my eyes again, but this time, I could feel the weight of Jake's gaze on me. His hurt, his confusion. It was all there, clear as day, and in that moment I knew. This was the breaking point, and I was responsible for it all. The silence in the room was suffocating. I could feel the weight of Jake's gaze burning into me, the hurt and betrayal radiating from him. My heart felt like it was being torn in two, and no matter how much I tried to collect my thoughts, nothing came together. I was paralyzed by the reality of what I had done and what I had allowed to happen. Jake's voice cut through the silence like a blade. So this is what's going on, huh? You've been lying to me this whole time. You've been sneaking around behind my back with him. His words dripped with disbelief, and I could hear the anger building up, his control starting to slip. How long, Lena? How long has this been going on? I wanted to speak. I wanted to explain, to make it clear that nothing between me and Tom had happened overnight, that it wasn't some grand betrayal. But as soon as I opened my mouth, the words didn't come out right. How could they? How could I possibly explain something so messy? I couldn't even explain it to myself. Tom looked at me, his expression softening just a little. He had no right to be part of this mess, but he had already made himself a part of it. Jake. This isn't about us, he said, his voice quieter now, almost regretful. It's about Lena, about what's going on in her head. You can't blame her for everything. Jake snapped his head in Tom's direction. Oh, so now you want to protect her? After everything that's happened. I saw the fury in Jake's eyes, but there was something else there too. Something I hadn't noticed before. Resignation. He knew deep down that this was the end. That it had all been falling apart for longer than he'd admitted to himself. But that didn't make it any easier to swallow. Lena, I can't believe you did this, Jake said, his voice cracking. It was quiet now, but it was the quiet of someone who had been deeply wounded. I trusted you. I trusted both of you, and now I find out this is how it's been behind my back. I felt my breath catch in my throat. My chest was tight, and I couldn't stop the tears that welled up in my eyes. How could I have done this to him? How could I have let it get to this point? I turned to Tom, trying to say something, anything, to explain that it wasn't like that. But he was already walking towards the door. He didn't want to be the one who kept pushing. And I couldn't blame him. This was my mess to clean up. I'm not the one you should be mad at, Jake, Tom said softly, turning back before he left the room. I'm not the one who broke your trust. You need to talk to her. With that, he left, and just like that, it was just me and Jake. I stood there for a long moment, unable to move, unable to find the right words. It felt like a lifetime, like every decision I had made in the past few weeks, months, had led to this moment. It was as if everything was collapsing, and I was standing in the middle of the wreckage, watching it all burn. Jake finally spoke again, his voice quieter now, but still filled with so much hurt. What happened to us, Lena? We were good, weren't we? I loved you. I still love you. But this is something I can't fix. Not like this. I took a step toward him, my chest tight with emotion, but he shook his head. No, you don't get to fix this, Lena. I've been looking the other way for too long, hoping things would get better. But I can't do that anymore. I can't just pretend that everything is fine when you're out here doing this behind my back. I deserve better than that. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I couldn't deny anything he was saying. He was right. He deserved better than this. He deserved someone who wouldn't break his heart like I had. I'm so sorry, I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted this to happen. Jake looked at me, his face unreadable now, and for a moment, I thought he might leave. I thought he might walk out of that door and never look back. But then he spoke again, his voice hoarse, as if the words were hard to get out. You're sorry, Lena. But that doesn't change anything. You've already made your choice, whether you realize it or not. I felt the finality in his words. The decision had been made. He wasn't just angry. He was done. I opened my mouth to protest, but the words wouldn't come. I realized, in that moment, that he was right. I had made my choice. Maybe not consciously, but I had. I had chosen to hide behind lies and guilt instead of confronting the truth. I had chosen Tom over everything else, even if I wasn't ready to admit it yet. Jake took a deep breath, his shoulders sagging as he looked at me one last time. I can't stay in this. Not anymore. I'm sorry, Lena. But I need to go. And with that, he turned and walked out of the house. I I didn't stop him. I couldn't. I stood there for a long time, feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under me. Everything I had taken for granted was gone in an instant. Jake was gone. The life I had built with him was shattered. And Tom? Well, he wasn't going to stick around either. The truth hit me hard. I had gotten so caught up in my own confusion and feelings that I had forgotten to protect the one person who truly mattered. Jake had trusted me, and I had betrayed him. I wasn't sure what came next. What happens after you destroy everything you love? But I knew one thing: I couldn't undo what I had done. And now, I had to live with the consequences.